Hola guys and welcome to Capturca Prod, when polygons meet desire. My name's Lian and today I want to share one tips and tricks that Blender users might run into, especially if they import their projects from older versions into new ones in Blender EEVEE. I ran into this myself and I'm not denying that I'm noob, so grab some coffee, whiskey or both and let's go. So I worked with the large ripped scene in Blender 3.6 earlier, cause some add-ons, for example XPS tools, only works with old versions. And when it came to transferring everything into Blender 5.0, chasing a juicy look in EEVEE, I ran into issue where my entire scene in rendered viewport literally looked moldy. Just look at this mess. And you might ask me, damn man, why you were even working with this kind of mess on your latest artworks in 5.0 and not even caring about it? Well, it's simple. Artworks in Casey Room, which I made in autumn and on Christmas, were made in cycles, so everything was behaving. As for test work in the dark place, everything looked fine in the camera, and I initially set up all my lights and models in material output and only later adjusted everything from the camera perspective. Of course, I noticed something was outside the frame, like very off, but I decided it wasn't critical at the moment, that I'll deal with it later. And you might face this exact same mess if you had clipping issues in an older version of Blender, lowered your clipping values to fix it, and then moved the project into modern versions of Blender. So how do we fix this? First, increase the clip start value in the viewport. If your scene looks like this mold, press N, go to the View tab and check clip start. It's probably set to something very small there, like 0.001, because at some point you thought, yeah, this is fine. Try setting it to 0.1 or even 1, and now at least we finally have some lighting. The image looks better, but some objects are still overexposed, gray and just weird, even though in the older version everything looked fine. So now we go into the render settings and enable ray tracing. Feel the difference? By the way, I was a bit too radical in my previous video when I said that EEVEE doesn't support ray tracing. The thing is, it's not just real full path tracing like in cycles, which is exactly why things like shower gel shaders in the previous video won't look as nice. But I got distracted again. Look, everything seems okay, but that mold is back on the fire escape slider. This is where the problem is, the shaders. Open the shader and start disabling things one by one. Maybe the normal map needs fixing, but no, in this case the issue is the roughness. Looks like I picked the wrong map, which is totally possible because I selected them manually from Ninja Reaper dumps. So I just remove it, it's not critical here, and boom, looks like it works. And yeah, I already see that awful angular lighting from the lamp on the wall. In Blender 3.6 it looked fine, it just needs a bit of tweaking and repositioning. You can check other shaders the same way. Maybe you mixed up roughness and metallic somewhere, just like I did in these examples. Everyone makes mistakes, especially when you're not working with properly extracted game files, but with raw rips where textures are just scattered under random coded names. And now I can finally say that this scene is ready for my real experiments in Blender 5.0. Moving forward, besides animation, I'll be using it a lot on my channel to show different things, stuff, simply because I spent a huge amount of time reconstructing it and I want to get the most out of it. Think of it as a kind of useful devlogs. I know my Blender workflow often turns into chaos, but I hope my experience of migrating a project from an older version will help someone, especially if you're working with large-scale scenes like this. Thanks for watching, take care, ciao.